What up, Buffalo fanatics, Z-Bots, Z here with you live. No, not again. Come on. Man, every time I go live, my internet lags out. What's this? Z-Bot, you gotta start using NordVPN for your streams. It will help speed up your internet. 2-year plan is 70% off at the bfvpn.com, and you get your first month free. Kingpin knows best. Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Z-Bot back with you with better than ever internet connection thanks to NordVPN. The best live streams use the best internet connection. Visit the bfpn.com to take advantage of 70% off a 2-year plan with your first month free.
This is the Kingpin, and you're listening to the Air Raid Hour of Buffalo Fanatics Video Experience.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Air Raid Hour. My name is Steve Mathis. You can find me on Twitter at Judge Mathis. Joined, as always, by my co-host, Dave Tilton. You can find him on Twitter at Tilt Money. Together, we are the Bills guys, and we are presented by the Buffalo Fanatics and NordVPN, as you saw in that beautiful, wonderful commercial with Z-Bot and Pierre there. So hit the comment sections for the link to NordVPN. Sign up today, and you probably have better internet connection than I, because I think you said I was a little choppy when we were on beforehand. So I've recently unplugged myself from the modem and I'm trying to go with the Wi-Fi. So I either need to make sure my NordVPN is set up on this computer because it's not set up on this computer, or I need to get myself plugged back into the old the modem here. So we make sure anything doesn't happen again. But let's cross our fingers and let's hope nothing bad happens tonight. But thank you guys so much for the birthday wishes. I really appreciate it. I feel like that Matt Damon gif from oh gosh, why am I blanking on the name of the movie? The World War II movie,
Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know why like one of the most famous movies of all time. I don't know why I blanked on it, but that just where his face goes from like young to old. That's pretty much what the last like 3 years have felt like since COVID has started.
Oh, you're still a young man.
The old 3-0, yeah.
You're still a young man. I mean, Pierre's a grandpa, so I mean,
yeah,
you got him beat there.
Matt Soda coming in saying, "Is it too hot out for a Bills guy?" So I think he's referring to you, but as for me, it's almost hoodie season, and I'm looking forward to it. I haven't actually checked the weather for Buffalo yet. We're going to be in Buffalo this weekend. We'll get to it in a moment. But I can't wait to bust those hoodies out because it's been like 115 here. I've just been like 100, 115. It's been raining, so it's been humid. Like I've been wearing t-shirts everywhere. Like I can't. But yeah, big question for you guys in the comment section before we get started. And thank you guys. We're already 60 strong and we're 3 minutes in. We will be in Buffalo this weekend. My flight is a red eye tomorrow, so I'm literally going on no sleep, whatever sleep I get on the plane to the Bills game. You're leaving Saturday morning, I believe, so you're getting in like midday Saturday. What bar do we hit up on Saturday night? That seems to be the biggest hurdle we have not yet figured out in this whole weekend of sorts. So anyone in the comment section want to give us any suggestions for bars? Let us know what bar you think we should hit up Saturday night, and then we will make a decision over the next day or two, and then we will get that announcement out on Twitter and stuff. So it'll be me, it'll be you, it'll be Pierre. I think Clay's a little busy. He's only gonna be at the golf tournament on Sunday, but Z-Bot will be out as well. So let us know, and the Fanatics crew will get out to some of these bars on Saturday night. Sheldon Cole says Duff's. I'm not a big Duff's guy.
Look, guys, I haven't been since 2007, so I pretty much just consider me that I haven't been because Buffalo Sports Garden.
I've never been to the Buffalo Sports Garden. Dave and Buster's sounds pretty intriguing. I was thinking maybe we go to Bar Bill, because then maybe we run into maybe. Listen, I'm not a big fan of the Anchor Bar, but there's a chance if we go to the Anchor Bar this weekend, we could run into Aaron Rodgers, because Aaron Rodgers was talking of the Anchor Bar. So who knows? Maybe we get Aaron Rodgers on the podcast. Maybe we get Aaron Rodgers on here.
We slip an accidental live StreamYard. And we get on there.
Could you just imagine like hopping on Twitter? It's just me, a selfie with me and Aaron Rodgers, just like chilling. Like, hey, what's up?
I mean, you'd get like 2,000 more followers in a day for sure.
Fun, quick question for you: who do you think Aaron Rodgers likes more? Me, a man he's never met, or his family who he doesn't talk to?
He likes you more.
Yeah, I think he
likes
likes. Like
it's the unknown. He likes he'll like the unknown more than what he knows he hates. Anytime
I feel down, anytime I feel bad about myself, anytime I feel blue, I just think to myself like, hey, Aaron Rodgers probably loves me more than he loves his family. So like whenever you are feeling down, people in the comment section, unless you're related to Aaron Rodgers, whenever you're feeling down, just know that Aaron Rodgers probably likes you more than his family. So anyway, if you have any bar suggestions, Gabriel's Gate's a good one too. Let us know, hit us up, and we will we'll try to hit up those bars. I'm thinking, see, I always do Riverworks. I'm trying to switch it up this time. Bar Bill, Pearl Street is a classic. Obviously you got Resurgence.
Truth to Hearts is saying if we go to the Anchor Bar, he'll be there, and I need to meet him in person. I mean, do we at least make an appearance?
We might make an appearance, get like 6 wings at Anchor Bar, maybe. I've never actually. I used to work right across the street from Anchor Bar, but I've never actually stepped foot in Anchor Bar. So it'll be interesting. So we will get on the town Saturday night. We will let you guys know on social media where we'll be at. I'm sure people will be more than happy to meet Pierre, and we'll just be like we'll just be the add-ons. Everyone's going to be there for the big man. Pierre will be.
We can't even, and it's not even like we could be like his fuzz, because like he's bigger than both of us. So it's like we're just like
we can't even be like his bodyguards. Like,
I know. I'll be like his bag man. That's what I'll be.
We're his accountants.
It's just, not to mention all you fuckers are so tall. I'm gonna be like the Danny DeVito of the group.
Andrew, we will be in town Saturday. I know I'll be at the game. I think you guys are gonna be watching from a bar. You bought tickets though, so you might.
No,
show up.
I'm probably gonna go, because now that I know the starters are playing, I got it right.
Okay,
I mean,
so I'll be at the game with my father. I'll tweet out the details about where I'll be, and I'll have Bobby try to Instagram story to get it out to as many people as possible. We'll try to get as many Fanatics people and people who are going to the game on Saturday together in a parking lot as possible. And then Saturday night we're gonna hit the bars, and then Sunday is the Fanatics golf tournament with Buffalo Go and Joe Kroom. So that should be a good time. Buff Barrier, dude. Do we tell him? Do we tell Buff Barrier?
Look, no, I need to have some.
He's the Wes Welker of this group.
I need to have some mystery, right? You guys have seen my face plenty of times. See me, you haven't seen me stand up. You might have seen me on Instagram stories, playing golf or something. But maybe that's something I'll
Should every photo be from like the chest up?
I'll say this: I am 100% confident that I'll be the shortest person of me, you, Zbot, Clay, and Pierre. 100%. 100% confident.
Josh Clark is asking how tall I am. My license plate says I'm 6 foot, so I'm just gonna go with 6 foot. It might be a slight. That might be what's going on. Okay, so we're all pressing buttons.
These people think I'm tall. That's great. I mean, everybody's sitting down. You can't tell. You can't tell. So.
King Thriller thinks you're like 6'7". He thinks you're Greg Russo.
Oh man, I hate to disappoint you all. I really do. I really do. Don't think less of me.
All right. So before we get into the major topic of tonight's show, we're going to go through the roster transactions and stuff and the starters playing for the Packers. I hate to bring in I hate to bring this out, but we do need to talk about it a little bit. The Buffalo Bills today, again, taking over Twitter with some of their COVID news. Isaiah McKenzie, Cole Beasley, both getting fined by the league for not wearing masks, etc. You saw a bunch of Buffalo Bills players missing practice this week because of COVID close contacts. The Buffalo Bills are probably one of, if not the least vaccinated teams in the league. It'll be interesting to see how those numbers change once roster cuts and everything go through, because there's a lot of people in the buildings and stuff right now. But these were Sean McDermott's comments today on the Buffalo Bills and the COVID situation.
Very frustrating. Very frustrating. There's people's livelihoods at stake in terms of, people's jobs are in their performances judged off of wins and losses or how well a person does X or Y. And some of that's dependent upon other members of the team. That's why this is a team game. And being able to count on people is important. And so when you're going through a week, if this were a real week, and having the players out that we've had, that makes it hard to win games that way. And
yeah, so that was Sean McDermott's coming in. Chris Hess comes in and says, "I beg you, no COVID talk. On my knees, I'm begging you." We're not going to get into the weeds of vaccines, anti-vaccines, all that stuff. Well, that's not what we're here to talk about. One of the things that I do want to talk about, and Chris Jenke said, by 120 other players were fine today too, by the way. But it's one of the things that I want to talk about today is the NFL rules, because there was a tweet from Cole Beasley today too, by the way. And this tweet from Cole Beasley reads, "Don't worry, they got me too." He was referring to Isaiah McKenzie. "But I was wearing a mask when I was in close contact with a fully vaxxed trainer who tested positive and still got sent home. So what was the point of the mask anyways? Meanwhile, I'm still here, still testing negative and can't come back. Make it make sense." And that's what I wanted to touch on a little bit today. Is I wanted to touch on the NFL's COVID policy, because the policy is that if players come into close contact with someone who's tested positive for COVID, unvaccinated players can come back the next day if they test negative, and unvaccinated players have to stay away from the team for a minimum of 5 games. Now, in the preseason, it's like whatever. It's whatever.
5 days, 5 days, not 5
days.
games.
Sorry, not 5 games. 5 days. It's whatever. It's whatever. But when the NFL regular season starts, you have a assistant equipment manager on a Thursday pop positive for COVID, even though he's asymptomatic, and you have 4 or 5 players within close contact, and 1 or 2 of them are not vaccinated, they're missing Sunday's game because that's within the 5-day window. So it's not a big deal right now, but just talk to me about, and people in the comment section, talk to me about what's your level of concern about this right now, and is the NFL right in having like this policy? Because it seems a little weird if players are testing negative for COVID day after day after day that they wouldn't be able to play on Sunday.
The rule is a little odd to me, and it has nothing to do with like my stance on the vaccine. It's really more about kind of putting this into the picture of the rules this year versus what the teams had to do last year. Right. And last year there was obviously no vaccine, and there were a lot of other rules that were put into place where, players had to, couldn't go out of the certain areas, and, they had to practice in certain times and had to be in certain places at certain times, and they had to come in and get tested every single day. We saw in Hard Knocks, like up close and personal, we saw with the Rams and the Chargers, like it was actually kind of good to see, like, you saw what the players had to go through every single day when they came into the facility. And it's kind of interesting now because this year players aren't getting tested every day, or maybe they still are. I could be wrong about that. I don't think they're getting tested every single day. And someone could definitely call me out if I'm wrong on that. But now you're basically setting these rules up to where close contact with someone is really putting you in a position that if you're a player and you have a stance one way or another on the vaccine, the rules are set up now that it's essentially incentivizing you, right, to get it if you don't want to miss games. Yeah. And right or wrong, however you feel about that, like the rules are set up in a way that kind of puts you in a position as a player, if you don't want to miss games, even if you're test negative, even if you test negative, but you've been around someone who is positive, you're going to miss a game, right? If you're not vaccinated. So the rules aren't really about whether you test negative or not. So, and that's the thing that's the thing that's odd to me.
Yeah.
So look, I mean, that's pretty much all I'm going to say on it. And I just find the rules to be a little odd, but these are the rules they've got to play by. And that's just the reality of the situation. So,
and that was the thing too. And Chris Jenke made a point earlier, the 5 days of the incubation period, but like, again, what I don't understand is that vaccinated or not vaccinated, you can still carry the virus. The vaccine is what has proven to have been effective in keeping people out of hospitals and keeping people from dying. So the vaccine so much isn't about spreading. It's about stopping people from going to the hospital or dying. But yeah, you were spot on when you said the NFL seems like it's trying to force everyone to get vaccinated. And there's appears to be a pushback by the Bills more so than any other team in the league. The Buffalo Bills, Brandon Beane said they're at an 80% vaccination rate when the rest of the league. I think an article came out about the Arizona Cardinals who were at 89% or something like that, or 86%. It might have been the Washington football team. And they were like in the bottom 5. And we were 10% below that. So chances are we're one of, if not the lowest vaccinated team in the league. Sean McDermott looked weathered. He looked tired. He looked frustrated. He looked beaten down at his press conference today. He did not look, he did not look like a happy camper. Right. So,
well, I will say about this.
He said all the right things. Like, I respect both sides. Like, here's what I believe, but I respect other people's beliefs. Your roster spot is not going to be tied to your vaccination status, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the look on the man's face was just a pure frustration. Nothing has freaked me out about this whole situation more than literally just the facial expression of Sean McDermott during his press conference today. Scared the living shit out of me. Scared the hell out of me.
I think he feels like a lot of us probably feel, whatever side you're on, you're just exhausted from it. You're exhausted from all of it, right? You're exhausted from the conversation. You're exhausted from the polarization that it's caused from the two sides, and you're exhausted from it taking away, like it is right now. And we're going to kind of nix this in a second, taking away from talking about like this upcoming season and the Bills being a Super Bowl contender. And that's really what we should be talking about right now before the season starts. So yeah, I can understand McDermott's frustration and kind of why you said it perfectly. He looked weathered, like he looked tired and exhausted from it. And I think a lot of us are, honestly.
Yeah. And Richard comes in and says, why doesn't Terry and Kim and Bean test all players and coaches on a daily basis? That would be the NFLPA, and the NFL have to agree to that. So the players are unionized and things of that nature. So, Terry and Kim can't just go against the players union. They can't just go against the NFL, the things that they've come to agreements to. They have to follow the NFL's policy. They can't create their own. But like, it's the same situation. Like, it's just going to be crazy this season too, because it seems like the NFL stance is like, hey, a vaccine is out. And since a vaccine is out, like, we're no longer going to bend over backwards for players and teams. Like last year it was, we will do everything in our power to get these games played and to make our money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and get through this season. But you see the Tennessee Titans going on right now. Like, every single one of the players that are testing positive on that team are like vaccinated and are asymptomatic, but they're all out. Like, they're all out. So it's going to be really crazy to see in the regular season how much the NFL is willing to bend to get these teams on the field and get these teams playing. Don comes in and says the NFL proposed to go into 5-day testing routine for vaxxed players today. Players proposed daily testing for all and masks for all. There will be changes coming. I don't know if it's the players that want this as much as it is Cole Beasley, but it's to me.
I mean, that's exactly what they did last year, right? It was masks for all and daily testing.
And that's another thing I don't understand. It's like, if it's a little swab up your freaking nose every morning, and if somebody tests positive on a Monday, that'll give them a better chance of coming back on a Sunday if they're asymptomatic or they've been in close contact with somebody. So why wouldn't you be trying your best to weed these guys out to get them ready by game day? I don't understand. The only reason there's a 5-day window, the only the only purpose for this 5-day window or this 10-day window is to incentivize people to vaccinate. It's not, in my opinion, to keep people safe. So it just seems odd. It just seems real odd.
Yeah. And before we move on, I need to ask Randy a question because I want to change the topic. Randy pinged me earlier today. He DM'd me and said he was in Raleigh this afternoon and was looking for a spot to eat lunch. So I want to know, Randy, in the comments, tell me where you ate lunch because you never told me. And then now we can move on.
All right. And speaking, let's move on to some better news because Ryan Fitzpatrick was in this news this morning. We had Brian Dable and Josh Allen on Part of My Take. We had Wingnuts on Part of My Take last week. We had Mitch Trubisky on Part of My Take last week. And today or yesterday it dropped, I believe. Ryan Fitzpatrick did an appearance when they were at the Washington football team's training camp. And here's what Ryan Fitzpatrick had to say about Buffalo.
Like, I've loved a lot of the places that I've played. I really have, but nothing compares to the city of Buffalo. Nothing. Yeah. Not even close.
And we got Don. So moving on here, and we'll get to Don. We'll get to your super chat in a second. We gotta respect the man, right? Everybody loves Fitz. I have never met a single Buffalo Bills fan who's had a bad thing to say about Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's gonna go down as one of the most popular, like, non-great Buffalo Bills. Like, it's just I love that dude. I don't know how his wife lets him get away with that beard and that haircut. Like, but gosh,
because he's making $10 million a year.
I mean, just take a second to say some good things about Fitzy here. Just take. Well,
I mean, he was the number one draft pick in our lunch table draft, was he not? Like, if of all the former Bills, current Bills, or coaches, when you, me, and Knapp drafted who we wanted at our lunch table, like, Fitz was the number one pick. Like he's just a guy you want to be around. He's been all over the league. He can tell you stories from so many different teams. And what I love about Fitz, probably more than anything, is like he's very aware of like who he is as a player in the NFL, right? He's the guy that knows he can come in and he can do some good things, but he also knows that he's not necessarily like the franchise quarterback. He's gone to all these different places and all these different teams knowing that, right? He's been a bridge guy, or he's been like a guy who's come in to like mentor a rookie or whatever. And he's totally comfortable with that role. And I think he relishes in that role. And I think that's what makes him such a great teammate, and what actually makes him, like, although he's not he won't go down as a great player, like he will go down probably as like one of the best influencers, I would say, in the league, over the past 15 years. Oh yeah.
I mean, that guy, and that's the thing too. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but Ryan Fitzpatrick went to Harvard. I don't know if you knew that. Did you know that? It's going to be really interesting to see what this dude does when he leaves the NFL, right? When he retires from actually playing football, it's going to be super interesting to see if he decides to go the coaching route, because I think a guy who has been in as many offensive systems as he has, a guy who's had the success around the league that he's had, a guy who plays the position he does where he needs to know what everyone else is doing on the football field. You see guys like Josh McCown who are getting into coaching and play calling and things of that nature. You see other quarterbacks who are retiring, who are jumping right into the coaching. But Ryan Fitzpatrick's made so much money over his career. It'd be interesting to see if he goes the coaching route. I know he's got a lot of kids and he wants to spend time with his family and all that stuff. Maybe he gets into the private sector. I would love it if he got into television too. Like, he's one of those guys where you see all of these guys on TV where, like, I'm sorry, but their takes are just so freaking bad. And it's just like the dude, like half the dudes you see, these ex-football players that you see on TV, it's like, how the heck did they get a job? They're not even remotely eloquent in the way they speak, and their takes are just awful. Like, it's not great. Like, you're not getting a lot of substance from a lot of former players who played in the league. Ryan Fitzpatrick seems like a guy who would give you really solid substance, a guy who could really, he adds in that humor element. Like, we saw him at the, if anyone's ever find it on, dig it up on YouTube, the WGR roast of, I think it was Freddie Jackson. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick was freaking hilarious. And most people who have played with Ryan Fitzpatrick say, like, he's the funniest teammate I've ever had. Like, so I would love to see him maybe possibly get into television or anything like that if he doesn't decide to go make millions of more dollars in the private sector. But a couple of super chats to catch up on here before we move on to some of the transactions the Buffalo Bills have made this week. Don coming in saying it was the Players Association that proposed going back to last year's policy. The NFL was saying the cost of testing are an issue. I mean, they're $1 billion league. They can freaking afford it.
That's a week. That's weak.
So weak. That is so weak. And then Richard Rush says, "Happy birthday, Judge. Have a beer on me, brother." Yes. After this show is over, I am heading to the one and the only. Don't be too jealous. I'm headed to the one and only Outback Steakhouse after this show is over. So it's so funny. My wife is not a very like
what is the thing they have? Awesome Blossom? Is that the
we're gonna get to that. Like my wife is not. She's not a big like chain restaurant person. But the other day she watches some show on YouTube called like the Try Guys.
I don't know why that just made me laugh so hard.
They have good pork chops apparently. So
Alice Springs Chicken. I don't know if they still have that. That's pretty good.
And Josh, don't get me wrong. When it comes to steak, there are definitely better steak places. My wife was watching something called we got them both, Lone Wolf. We got both of our super chats. Listen, I'm not saying Outback is great. I'm not. But John Herring's son's works at Outback, so maybe it is great. It's great. It's awesome. All right, and then, but we're going for the Bloomin' Onion. We're going for the Bloomin' Onion.
So what awesome is that? Chili's? What there's another one, right?
I have never heard of that before.
All right, I'm gonna look it up right now.
Sergio says, "Judge, how are you going to Outback when we have a Texas Roadhouse?" I don't like Texas Roadhouse. I'm a Black Angus guy. Like I like Black Angus.
It was Chili's. It's Chili's. It's the same thing. So Bloomin' Onion and Awesome Blossom are literally the same thing. One's for Chili's and one is for Outback.
Yeah. So Sergio, like if you like Texas Roadhouse, like I'm all for it. I respect that, but I would put Texas Roadhouse behind Black Angus, Longhorn, and Outback in my chain steakhouse power rankings. Your boy Lettuce comes in saying, I would love to see Fitzmagic on Fox, and I can't wait to see Josh Allen hand off to the new motor. So that should be interesting. We're gonna get to that in a second as well. Him and Gus Johnson calling a game would be dope. I know Gus Johnson doesn't really.
It's a lot of energy. It's a lot of energy.
But yeah, Bloomin' Onion's amazing. And a couple of people were giving me a hard time because I had Five Guys for the first time last night, and I knew what I was saying when I tweeted that out last night. I knew exactly what I was saying. I did that on purpose. My tweet last night was I experienced Five Guys for the first time tonight. Life changing, and some people did not like. Some people did not like my choice of words.
Five Guys.
Bobby will. Good thing Bobby's not watching the show, but he will find that. He will clip it and he will take out every other part of that and post it on all of our social media.
Five Guys is one of those where it's like
too.
They try to make up for it by giving you like a shit ton of fries, and they're still not even that good. I mean, my wife and I used to like to go to Five Guys a lot, but we really haven't gone so much lately just because it's like it adds up. You end up spending like $30, $20, $25, $30 for two people. And it's like, I don't know that it's worth it.
No.
Oh, he's there.
He was lurking.
He's there. He's there. He's ready for it.
All right, so let's skip over the transactions now. We'll get to the transactions and stuff. We got plenty of show left, but let's go now to the starters playing against the Green Bay Packers. So Sean McDermott came out today. I've never heard of whatever this is. Fogo de Chao. Never heard of that. So that should be interesting. I'll have to see if we have one over there. And Jessica comes in and says, as long as you don't say how many pieces.
I think it's a Brazilian steakhouse, if I'm not mistaken. Like one of those where they carve the meat off the thing. I think that's what that is.
Okay. Well, that's kind of like Texas Day Brazil, right? I've had they're Brazilian steakhouses. Yeah, Brazilian steakhouses are awesome. I've only ever been to a Texas Day Brazil, but I mean, gotta love it. Just meats galore, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's called Braga here. That's the name of the one we have here. It's just like it is a lot though. Like you get the meat sweats, man, if you start on it. But
yeah, Ruth Chris is another one. There's
Sullivan's is good. I mean, we have those here.
I've never been to a Fleming's. I've seen Fleming's.
We have a Fleming's here. I haven't been, but
so Harold Fuller comes in and says, "Are the Packer starters playing?" I can't speak to that. I can't speak to the rest of the team, but I do know Jordan Love is expected to play the entire game start to finish. So that should be something interesting if you're heading out to the game or you're watching and you just just want to watch, like when you're watching the Packers play. Like outside of that, watching Jordan Love play the entire game should be interesting. But back to the starters and stuff. Sean McDermott says he wants to play the starters and Josh Allen's going to get playing time. Mm-hmm. My first question is what are your thoughts on this? Because I'm going to be scared shitless the entire time, but I do kind of think I'm a little bit okay with him getting a series or 2 or 3 just to get back into the game flow a little bit. Like I like college football, like those teams that they always seem to schedule, right? Like those really good D1 teams always seem to schedule a team that they could curb stomp the first week of the season, that they know they have nothing to lose. Because it's essentially their preseason. And sometimes you see when 2 really good teams play each other week 1 of the college football season, there might be an upset, or the team you don't expect to win wins. And then 8 weeks later, one of those teams, the team that lost, is still in contention for the college football championship, but has a loss on their record. And the other team is like 5-5. So, even though no one had a preseason last year, and even though the Buffalo Bills got off to a really good start last year, if you go back and watch that Jets game, like there was definitely some rust that they were knocking off over the course of that game. And that was a game without any fans in the stands too. So it was a glorified practice. So it should be super interesting. But what are your thoughts on the Buffalo Bills getting some starters out there?
I'm okay with it. And I mean, if you kind of just read the quick blurb, and you see the headline that says, oh, Bills starters play into the third quarter, that's not all of them, right? If you go back and listen to what McDermott said, that's like the window, right? Either going to play like a play or 2 or a series, let's say, or there are going to be some guys that go into the third quarter, right? So guys like Josh Allen, like I expect him to play a series or 2 and then be out. I think other guys that'll probably play maybe into the third quarter would be maybe some of the offensive line. Maybe a guy like Cody Ford will play into the third quarter, right? Maybe a de facto starter like a Gabriel Davis may play into the third quarter. Maybe you see Zach Moss maybe get a little bit into the third quarter, or Breida, right? I don't expect there to be a ton of starters playing into the third quarter. Now, I would expect that if Josh Allen comes out and has a good first series, then you might not see him again. Like as little as that is, you don't really need much more than that. So I think that will depend on how he does in that first series. And if he does fine, you take him out. The other thing I think is interesting about it is that in the normal in the normal preseason format, sort of in years past where you had 4 games, the third game was typically the one where you saw the starters play the most. And this is the third game. Now, in a way, you can kind of look at this as the 4th game in years past, because the 4th game was the game no starters played, and that was just like it, right? But because you haven't really had that chance for the starters to play yet, I think they're just saying, look, we're going to have them play a little bit, and we're going to kind of treat this sort of as the 3rd game and the 4th game, right? And the second half will probably be all depth guys, and the first half maybe starters. And the other thing that I would say, last year we played week 1 against the Jets, right? I mean, in a way, and it's the NFL, so it's different from college, I understand that. But in a way, with Adam Gase at the helm and playing the Jets week 1, you almost kind of thought of it as like that the first scrub game, right?
The first week of COVID football last year, it felt like an inter squad scrimmage. Like it didn't feel like real football. The empty stadium, the players were rusty. Like that didn't feel like, going back and watching that, you're like, is this a practice? Like it didn't look real.
Exactly. And this year, I know people are down on the Steelers, but the Steelers, any way you shake it, are a tougher opponent week 1 than the Jets were last year. So I think McDermott wants to get a feel for how his starters are going to be in live game action. And he knows the Steelers week 1 is a bigger, even though the Jets were a division game last year, the Steelers week 1 this year to me is a bigger game week 1 than last year's week 1 game, because you've got to come out and show that you can beat this team now for the 3rd time in 3 years. And they're for as down as people are on them, they were a 13, 14 win team last year or whatever they were, right? So you got to take them seriously, and I think that goes into it as well.
Yeah, we got your boy Lettuce coming in saying Allen gets 2 series. He's a tough boy, made of stern stuff. Also, this is his first crack at the home crowd. Sure, that was a consideration. I think the Buffalo Bills are playing the starters in this game because it's at home. Like, I think they purposely waited for the third game because it was the home crowd. I think that they wanted Josh Allen out there in front of maybe a friendly crowd. They know it'll be a big crowd. They know it'll be noisy. So I think there might have been. I think if the game against the Bears is at home, you might have seen Josh Allen play that game. But also Dirt's jersey comes in and says 1-2 series. It's going to be a vanilla defense. It doesn't matter what Allen does. Just get some action under his belt. That's another possibility. Maybe the Buffalo Bills were like the rest of the NFL is seeing the third week as the figurative fourth week or whatever. So we're going to treat it like the third week. Not because we don't want to give our players a challenge, but we'd rather just have Josh Allen go out there and knock the rust off versus a vanilla defense and backups as opposed to another team starters who could risk injury. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe the Buffalo Bills are figuring the Packers are going to play all backups. So they're like, all right, it's a little safer. Josh Allen can go. He can go, 7 of 8 for 60 yards, maybe throw a touchdown pass, not really worry about the pass rush too much. Like it's, maybe that was their plan here for week 3. To me, it was surprising that more teams are treating this week 3 game like the week 4 game and the week 2 game like the week 3 game. And here's why. There's roster cutdowns this year. Like the roster has been trimmed down from 90 to 80 this game, which means you have 10 less players to play with. So to me, when you have less guys to just throw out there, less scrubs to throw out there, that's when you would maybe want your starters to play more, like give them a quarter or two, because that way you only have 3 quarters to break up over the backups as opposed to an entire game over the backups. So I thought that was a little weird, but again, that's just where my mind went after roster cutdowns and stuff. But I looked at the Bills cuts this week, and one of the names that stuck out to me the most was Tariq Thompson got cut by the Buffalo Bills this week. And Jaquan Johnson is hurt. That leaves the Buffalo Bills at safety with Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, Josh Thomas, and DeMar Hamlin. Unless Jaquan Johnson gets better by Saturday. It doesn't look like he will because he hasn't practiced in 2 weeks. So Buffalo Bills are going to this game. And again, this is me just picking one position group and kind of scratching my head and thinking, 4 guys. Could we see the Buffalo Bills play their starters a half? Like Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde are out there a half or almost a half. And then DeMar Hamlin and Josh Thomas get the second half. Could we see the Buffalo Bills starters play more than just a series or 2? Could this be legitimately one half of football, like a third preseason game?
Oh man, for that position, it's tough because you're so thin, but you also know that those guys are so important to your team and they never come off the field during the regular season. I would go the opposite view on that. I say maybe those guys play a quarter or less, and then it's like the Hamlin Thomas show the rest of the way.
Yeah.
Because ultimately you have 4 guys that you're going to suit up and throw Saran Neal in the mix into that group if you want to as well. The question becomes would you rather take the chance of having Hamlin and Thomas play more, knowing that you already have guys injured behind them like Jaquan Johnson? Or do you say, well, we need this group as a whole to try to be as healthy as possible. So the best way to do that is to have the starters play a half and the backups play half. To me, the math, it doesn't work out that way. I think for me, especially with this group, I'd say I need to have my 2 guys ready to go for week 1 with as injured as the rest of the position group is, with Johnson being hurt, and you only have Hamlin and Thomas now after cutting Tariq Thompson. I'd almost take the stance of Hyde and Poyer out there for a series and then done.
Yeah. And it's just weird to me too, because you look at the roster and you're like, man, that's thin. Because if DeMar Hamlin and Josh Thomas go in and play 3.5 quarters of football and one of them gets hurt, it's what's the safety valve there? Is it Saran Neal? like what do they do? Like, there's no Tariq Thompson out there as just sort of an insurance policy. That's where, like, when I was looking at that depth chart, I was shaking my head.
Yeah.
I was just
It is a little weird. It is a little weird. That's why I think you're going to see basically Hamlin and Thomas the whole game. And if one of them get hurt, then yeah, maybe you'll see Saran Neal play a bunch of safety, or who knows? Maybe you'll see Nick McLeod play some safety. I don't know. We'll see.
You just really want Nick McLeod on that roster there, don't you? That was a shock on the depth chart to see Rashad Wildgoose over Nick McLeod.
Yeah, a little bit, but again, he's a draft pick, you know, and they both have had their moments in the preseason so far. Obviously, Wildgoose with the strip fumble and McLeod with the interception. So, like, as much as I, pull for McLeod because he's a former NC State guy, Wildgoose is the draft pick and probably in the long term does have a little more upside. So, as far as where they are on the depth chart right now, I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just Quentin Morris over Nate Becker on the depth chart. Just disrespectful. Nate Becker.
I know you're mad about that.
Just straight disrespectful. All right, let's talk a little bit about some of the roster cuts. So I know Randy is chomping at the bit, and someone asked about Steven Sims in the chat as well. So here were the Buffalo Bills cuts this week. The Bills made a lot of interesting decisions. Some of the players went on that COVID inactive list, so we signed some guys, we cut some guys, et cetera, et cetera. The Bills have officially released the following players: Lance Lenoir, Tyrell Adams, Bug Howard, Tyler Gauthier, and Tariq Thompson. So there's some conversations that can be had just about these 5 guys who were cut, but they've also made 3 additions as well. Wide receiver Rico Gafford, who was a former cornerback at Wyoming, switched to wide receiver in the National Football League, has a couple of deep ball highlights in his career. Guy has a 4.26 40. They also signed wide receiver Steven Sims, who's had some success in his time in Washington, returning kicks, punts, and also being a wide receiver. I've seen some various reports, and I didn't have time to look it up about what his 40 time was. Some people were saying he was a 4.5 guy. Other people were saying he was a 4.35 guy. So I'd have to double check on his 40 time. Maybe there's an official and unofficial number out there. Who knows? If anyone in the comments section knows his official 40, like at a pro day or something, let me know. And they also signed some defensive tackle whose name I forgot. Something Ivy. He's going to get cut. Doesn't really matter. The wide receivers are more interesting. We're all about the flash here on the Air Raid Hour. It's the Air Raid Hour, not the big fat guy hour. The big fat guy hour is just safe for the offseason when we're talking about replacing Starlo Tulele. Sorry. I was close. I caught myself. But anyway, looking over this cut list, Joey Ivy, thank you. It doesn't matter. He's going to get cut. Looking over. Sorry, Joey Ivy. If your mom, your dad is listening, I apologize. But before we get to Sims and before we get to Gafford, a couple things on the guys we cut. Let's start with Lance Lenoir, because Lance Lenoir was Buffalo media darling, right? Like it's don't worry, Richard, so am I. We had Sal Capaccio tweeting his praises. We had Matt Perino tweeting his praises. We had a ton of people saying, like, oh, if the Buffalo Bills weren't so stacked at wide receiver, Lance Lenoir would be on this team. Like, he's blowing it up. Yet he's the first guy cut, and we still have like Tanner Gentry here. We still have a couple of other guys, and we added 2 receivers on top of that. So what do you think the deal is with Lenoir there? Have we maybe, as Bobby has been saying for days and days, have we been overreacting to the things that are coming out of Sal Capaccio and Matt Perino and Thad Brown and Joe B's mouth? Like, are we putting too much into what they think is going on at camp? Because it might not be anything remotely close to what the coaching staff thinks.
Yes and no. I mean, the thing is like, it's not just one guy saying that, right? It's not just Sal saying that, or it's not just Matt saying it. It's like, it's all of them, right? So they're all noticing. So they got a Jerry Hughes. Mcdermott just told. We know Truth to Heart is not a Jerry Hughes fan. But look, everybody's saying that unless like there's, and this is not something that I would think, like, unless they're just kind of getting together and saying like, well, what did you guys think about this guy? Do we think he was good? What, like that doesn't seem like something they would do, right? They're all going to have their own opinions. We know a lot of the opinions jive together, but we've also seen situations where like Thad Brown said something that was different than what Matt Perino or Sal said. So there are some differing opinions as well coming out from the beat guys. And, but Lenoir was a guy that had consistently gotten pretty good reviews, right, from the beat. So Gentry, we know the history with him, with Josh Allen at Wyoming. Like, maybe it's just one of those things where the Bills felt like maybe we're going to try to do right by Lance Lenoir and say, look, you're probably not going to make this team, but you might have the best chance of anyone here to go latch on somewhere else before the season starts to make a roster.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's weird.
And this is what the great thing about having the comment section in here during the show is, because there are two comments back to back that really got the gears grinding in my head here. Elliot coming in saying, did we cut some of these guys to allow them a chance to make another squad? You look at two names on that cut list. You look at Tyrell Adams, who was cut before Joe Giles Harris, who was cut before, some of the other guys there at the bottom half of the linebacking core. And you look at Lance Lenoir, who, again, was sort of a guy who was shining, who was cut. So maybe the Buffalo Bills were like, sorry, guys, there's just no place for you here. We're going to cut you earlier so you can latch on somewhere else earlier. Or the Buffalo mayor coming in and saying this, smoke screen. So maybe this is a situation where the Buffalo Bills are like, all right, we'll cut them now. They won't get that fourth preseason game to flash, or that third preseason game to flash. And if another team doesn't sign them, they're still sitting there, maybe that's going to give us a better shot of getting them back to our practice squad. So that could be something as well. Not giving them that last chance to shine, hoping that no one picks them up, or
Maybe.
Just like if it's a night, like if it just so far like a happenstance just happens, or as Randy says, they just thought he wasn't that good.
Yes, that's also very much probably the likely answer.
But rolling through any of those cuts, it's interesting. So Rico Gafford and Steven Sims were the two other names. Buffalo Bills clearly like speed, playmaking receiver. My read on the Steve Sims thing is he's got that kick return, punt return flex. Marcus Stevenson's dealing with the ankle. He was back at practice today. Isaiah McKenzie's arm was in a sling the other day. Maybe this is a situation where the Buffalo Bills wanted to get an experienced return guy onto the roster, give him a week or two to get acclimated. And maybe he's a guy that probably gets cut on roster cut down day and then comes back for a week or two. Like we keep Marcus Stevenson on the team, but we immediately IR him the day after roster cut down and bring Steve Sims back, and Steven Sims can return kicks and punts for 3 weeks until Stevenson or McKenzie come back. So I think that Stevenson will likely, or I'm sorry, not Stevenson. I think that Sims will likely get cut on roster cut down day, but I still think he could probably be a member of this football team for like the first 2 or 3 weeks, depending on those injuries to Stevenson, McKenzie. I think he is a short-term guy. As for, and I mean, if we can keep on the practice squad all year as insurance, like if that might be good too, to have a return guy as insurance. I think Rico Gafford is more of a long-term investment, a guy who played with Josh Allen. He was a cornerback in college, has got that 4.26 40. I think he's a guy the Buffalo Bills might see as a more longer-term guy that they continue to develop over the course of a year or two. And then maybe he turns into something. I don't know. What are your thoughts on these two guys that we picked up at the wide receiver position? I mean,
Gafford, I would agree. He's going to be the new Duke Williams, right? The guy that,
but just the opposite. Instead of people fawning over his size and like contested catchability, they're going to be fawning over his speed.
Yeah, but he's the guy like Duke took the trip from being, I believe, undrafted, went to the CFL, came back, and so not exactly the same, but a guy that played a different position, needs development, has a history with Josh Allen. And you can put him on the practice squad and not worry about it. As far as Sims, I like the idea of him being the guy like we did last year where, we cut Andre Roberts, bring him back once we IR someone else. I think that's probably going to be the situation. It looks like it would be the situation with McKenzie right now over Stevenson, just because he's in that sling. And it seems like, based on what the Bills said, that he's more, I hate when they say this, but they're like day to day, week to week. Like what the hell is that? In any case, Stevenson was back and McKenzie was in the sling. Although he's in good spirits, he always is. He would be more of the candidate in my mind right now for that 3 week sort of IR to start the season. What that means, though, is you have to keep him on the 53. You have to keep him on the 53 come cut down day, and Sims is the guy that you probably cut and then bring back once you put him on the once you put McKenzie on the IR. And I think you could see a situation where Stevenson and Sims are the two guys to start the year as your kick and punt return guys. And also, it just seems like there hasn't been a lot of buzz around Powell thus far in camp, and maybe Sims is a guy.
He's just a guy. Like,
yeah.
He's just such a guy.
So maybe Sims is even just an upgrade over Powell as an insurance policy as well.
We haven't seen Lance Lenoir return a kick or a punt yet, and I thought he had that flex, but I guess I was mistaken. Brandon Powell, the only reason he probably wasn't the first receiver cut was just for the simple fact that he's going to be getting all the kick and punt returns on Saturday, unless they want to work Steve Sims in a little bit.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, there's no one else to do it. They're not going to put anyone else back there, so they're just going to let Powell do it. Yes, I would think so.
And then obviously we mentioned Duke Williams earlier. This is the end of Duke Williams in Buffalo. He was officially reverted back to the Buffalo Bills injured reserve today, and then was released with an injury settlement. So I think the Buffalo Bills are officially washing their hands of Duke Williams, and I think this is what's best for Duke Williams, because I do think that he could latch on and be someone's Jay Kumaro. Like, I think he could be a fourth or fifth receiver on a football team and be a team's go up and get it guy. So I really hope he gets a chance to latch on with an NFL team with a shallow receiving core before he heads back to the CFL. And Forrest Lamp, man, talk about right now, he's got to be the biggest disappointment of the Buffalo Bills offseason, right? On the field. Obviously, there are some people who might have a different opinion based on some other things, but Forrest Lamp has got to be one of the bigger disappointments of this offseason, right?
Yeah, I would say so. I think I'm not ready to call Dane Jackson a disappointment, because he's still a second-year guy and put in a tough situation. Lamp, given the situation and given the pressure the Bills are putting on Cody Ford to be the guy, you thought Lamp might have a chance to come in and say, compete for that starting spot. Now things got a little bit, things went a little bit different than maybe we thought, where they actually flipped Feliciano and put him on the left and put Ford on the right, which kind of threw a little bit of a wrench into that competition with Lamp. But there was just nowhere for him, right? There was no natural spot for competition for him once they flipped Feliciano over to the left side, because he played left guard with the Chargers for 16 games. He wasn't going to compete with Feliciano, right? That Feliciano was always going to be that guy if at the left spot, if that's where they wanted him. And at the right spot, that wasn't really the natural position for him. So it kind of left him a bit positionless and more as a backup player. And as Chris says, yes, he got cut from IR with injury settlement. So yeah, big disappointment. But at the end of the day, like we talked about this last show, maybe we overhyped him a little bit too much because of the fact that he did play 16 games for the Chargers last year. But I made this point in the summer, the Chargers weren't exactly loaded at the offensive line. For them to just let him walk should have been a sign maybe that he wasn't maybe as good as we kind of hyped him up to be. So, oh well.
Yeah, we got Scott coming in like this. He says, Lamp is our new Adrian Waddle, never going anywhere with us. I liked Waddle's upside. The Buffalo Bills are free to sign Forrest Lamp after, I think, 3 weeks after his injury settlement. I think that's what Chris was saying in the comment section. So, I mean, Forrest Lamp could make his way back to Buffalo, but my guess is with how bad offensive lines are and how shallow offensive lines are around the National Football League, some team will call Forrest Lamp up as soon as he's healthy, and he'll be on a roster somewhere as a backup guard or on a practice squad getting ready to call up. Jeff King in the comment section, we always got to make sure we're repping the King himself, Jeff King. Whenever he comments, he says, Judge, happy birthday, enjoy your bloomin' onion. Oh, I'm going to enjoy that. Bloomin' onion, a nice steak. I shouldn't say a nice steak, an average, like just a steak, and then a nice Foster's. Got to have the Fosters when you go to Outback. So I went to an Outback once and they're like, we're out of Fosters. And I almost got them left. I'm like, what the is the point? Like, what is the point? Like, what is the point of being here right now if you don't even have an Australian beer? I went to an Italian restaurant once and tried to order a Peroni. And they're like, yeah, we're out of Peroni. I'm like, what? You're an Italian restaurant. How are you out of the only Italian beer here? Like, what are you doing? Anyway, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like that's all I got for tonight. We've worked our way through just about everything we could talk about. We've talked about the transactions. We've talked about Ryan Fitzpatrick and his gorgeous mane. We've talked about Duke and Lamp. We've talked about the cuts. We've talked about some of the new signings. We talked COVID ramifications tonight. Not a single, like really very, very few of you. Yeah, I am going to be a hell of an old man. Very few of you have suggested to us a Buffalo bar yet. So that's still on the table. Harold Fuller coming in. This is a great topic here. And feel free to jump on with any topics you want tonight. And Richard, I'm going to read your comment in a second. I just lost it because I'm trying to pull up a new graphic here. But Richard says, Judge, get a bone-in ribeye medium rare. Can't go wrong there. I'm going to write that down right now.
And to Truth the Heart's comment, season predictions, we're saving that for next week. Just so you know. We're doing predictions next week.
And I don't know if I want to order something medium rare from a restaurant, like a chain restaurant. That might be questionable. I might get it medium. But anyway, Chris, thank you so much. I have no idea. I don't even like his name. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know anything about the man. I just don't like his name. Harold Fuller says thoughts on the Sony Michel trade. So the Patriots have made 2 trades in the past week or so. So for the life of me, maybe you can look it up. What was the compensation for Sony Michel? Because it wasn't a lot. And that was a crowded backfield in New England. And there hasn't been a place for Sony Michel there in quite some time. Ramondre Stevenson has looked good. JJ Taylor looks good. I think he's poised to make that team. They obviously have James White. They obviously have Damian Harris. They just got some really good backs there. Brandon Bolden usually makes the team every year as a special teamer. So it's going to be really interesting to there was just no more room for Sony Michel. Yeah. And kudos to the Rams. I think the Rams are going to utilize him well. You see Henderson's out. You see that obviously missing the season is going to be Cam Akers. His could be a career ender. That stinks for him. And then you got it, I'm sure, and Lone Wolf's got it as well. A 6th rounder in 2020 and a 4th in 2023 for Sony Michel. To me, the Rams won that trade because I think Sony Michel, like obviously in this stage of his career, that might be pushing it 2 picks for Sony Michel, especially one in the 4th round. So maybe you could say the Patriots won that trade, but at the end of the day, they invested a 1st round pick out of the guy and barely got 1 or 2 quality seasons out of him. Like why people were praising Bill Belichick for this trade, and I just don't understand it. They have to give up on draft picks time after time after time. It's and Randy says apparently Michelle was a better pick than Chubb according to some. Sony Michel was my RB1. I loved Sony Michel. So don't get me wrong. Apparently it's been medical that's been his issue. It's been a knee issue, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on that Sony Michel trade before we get to Sean Wade? Which makes me angry.
I am tired of hearing, like, I opened the CBS article and it's like Belichick works his magic again. And it's like, are you really, does he really work his magic again when he's got to trade a pick, like a 1st round pick for a 2023 4th and a 6th? Like, that to me means like that pick didn't really work out for you. And so I don't know, man. That seems like if you're the Rams, Sony trade can convert to a 4th in 2022 based on incentives. Yeah, I think I saw something like that. If it was something, if the Rams had a compensatory pick, I think in that round it became a 4th or something like that. I think that's something I read. But in any case, look, the Rams needed something with Akers going down, and now Darrell Henderson's also banged up as well, I believe. So it's insurance.
They got Jake Funk. They got Jake Funk. They got my man Jake Funk.
I just like Sony Michel does not excite me as a run. Like he just does not. He's a plotter to me right now.
It's that knee, man. Like that's what I'm saying. Like if you go back and look at his college tape before that second knee, like
he's a different guy. He's a different guy. I agree.
Injuries suck. And I also think Cam Akers could be a career ender too, because Cam Akers can probably looking a hell of a lot like Sony Michel when he comes back from his injury.
Which is a shame because Cam Akers really second half of last year just took off and what looked like he was going to be like an absolute stud this year for them. And Matt Stafford was finally going to have a great running game for like the first time in his career. And now who knows what's going to happen. But Sony Michel, look, it was a necessity, I think, for the Rams to kind of try to make a move for a running back. probably a situation where they said, look, from a value standpoint, we're not trying to give up big capital or anything more to get a guy that we think is better than just sort of like, cut down fodder type talent. So we'll say Sony Michel's a little better than that, and we'll see where he can fit into the mix. And then hopefully Darrell Henderson, won't be out for too long. And he's a pretty good back, Darrell Henderson, when he's right. So maybe that 1-2 punch of Henderson and Michel could be a little can bridge that gap.
You're sleeping on Jake Funk, dude. You're sleeping on Jake Funk.
Is he gonna lead that team in carries?
I think Jake Funk might lead that team. I think he might lead that team in rushing when all is said and done.
Okay.
Time to get funky out there in LA, man. I love me some Jake Funk. Anyway, a couple more things on the Patriots here. So reports came out of Baltimore today that Shaun Wade, who had an up and down training camp in terms of practices, but was pretty good in the preseason. 5th round pick. We've had multiple discussions about him during the offseason. He was on the trade block because the Ravens were thought they were just too deep in the secondary. They were going to have to cut him. And I was all over it because we had these conversations about Shaun Wade leading up to the draft. We're like, man, he could be a perfect guy to come in and play that Dean Marlowe role in his first year and then possibly be a guy to, just slide right into that Teron Johnson spot in the nickel in 2022 when Teron Johnson's contract's up. He was a highly touted recruit, a guy who was being talked about as a top 10 draft pick, playing his like sophomore season at Ohio State in the nickel, but then he tried it on the boundary and he just wasn't a boundary corner. And he was playing with an ankle injury that really slowed him up, and he was getting worked in the college football playoffs because he was playing on that bum leg, and his stock just plummeted. And again, he doesn't have that flex to be an outside corner, but as a nickel guy, as a safety, what the New England Patriots gave up for him, a 7th round pick this year and a 5th round pick like 2 years down the road, I think I might have been willing to take that risk if I was Brandon Beane. And I'm sure multiple teams were in on this deal. I'm sure the Buffalo Bills probably dipped their toes in the water a little bit, probably weren't willing to give up 2 picks. And because Brandon Beane does, I do think value draft picks, especially in future years when that, you're going to have to start filling your depth guys with draft picks. But as we have to pay more and more guys, but I don't know. It just stinks that he went to the Patriots because he's a player that I've always liked. And they're loaded in the secondary, so I don't really see a place for him. It was a weird deal. It was a weird deal.
They're already loaded in the secondary, so in a way that makes it less of a sting, I guess, for me. In a weird way, like
who could be the odd man out in New England because of Shaun Wade? Your boy.
Don't say it.
Your boy. Not Kyle Duggar. Not Kyle Duggar. Your boy from a couple of years ago, Miles Bryant.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Because
you and Miles Bryant got a lot in common.
Yeah, that's true.
Low man.
Washington, right? Wasn't he a Husky?
Yeah. You were a Miles Bryant stan 2 years ago.
I think we both were, but yes,
yeah.
I was. I was a big fan of him, and
Gilmore could also be on his way out too. That could also be.
I was a fan of him as a late round, like a nickel guy. Yeah, if I remember. Yeah, he and especially now, Teron Johnson's banged up.
Mm-hmm.
He's quote labeled as week to week as well. Like the Bills' injury list is
not
long.
Fun.
It's long right now.
I don't even want to talk about it.
Like Diggs back to practice, but it's like I know I in my head I know, like, just tell myself like the Diggs thing is just like the Bills just want him for the regular season. Like he literally doesn't have to do anything like the rest of the offseason. Any chance we get Trill Williams?
If he's waived, the Buffalo Bills met with him and Ifeatu, in the pre-draft process. So the Buffalo Bills have interest. So if he is waived and isn't claimed, there's a chance that the Buffalo Bills might try to offer him a practice squad spot. I mean, his injury already cost him a job on the Dolphins, correct? And now he's with the Saints.
That's what happened. Yeah, I believe.
Yeah. So
Dolphins, Saints. Yeah.
It seems like the injury is what knocked his draft status, and then the Dolphins cut him right away, which was super weird. But then the Saints signed him, and at OTAs, like the first day of OTAs, he had like an interception or something for the Saints. So like he was doing really well in OTAs for them. So if he doesn't make the team in New Orleans,
I think it was the other way around. Saints and then to the Dolphins, or no? I think it was the other way around.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I have not been following Trill Williams. I remember knowing he was cut right away after being a UDFA, and then getting an interception in OTAs for his new team. But I'm blanking on the two teams.
Okay, I thought he went to the Saints as a UDFA, and then the Saints cut him, and then he went to the Dolphins.
I think you are correct.
Okay, yeah, I
But
think
yeah,
that's
if he's willing to come to the Buffalo Bills practice squad, I think that there could be a spot. Yeah, he's on the Dolphins now. Sorry, I had that backwards. So, that is a situation where that's a player the Buffalo Bills had their eye on. Like, there were a number of players in the pre-draft process the Buffalo Bills were linked to, right? Like we had conversation after conversation after conversation. Oh, the Bills met with this guy. The Bills met with that guy. The Bills met with this guy. The Bills interviewed this guy at the Senior Bowl. Like there are a number of players the Buffalo Bills were linked to. So when these cuts come down over the next couple of weeks, you might start to see some names that we talked a ton about in March and April join the Buffalo Bills practice squad. I don't think there's going to be very many active roster places. Like the Buffalo Bills aren't the bottom feeders of the league where they can afford to scoop up 5 or 6 guys off the waiver wire and put them on their team because they're not trying to win anything. So, but if there is a couple of guys that are willing to come to the Buffalo Bills practice squad, you could see that. A couple of familiar faces, a couple of names that we talked about at length. And that's why we were talking to Kendall. He's got he's a busy man now. He's a busy man, but next year he's going to have to timestamp some draft stuff for us so we can pull those promos. So we can pull those promos back when the Bills sign a guy at the end of training camp. It should be super interesting. And then the last thing, there were some comments about Patriots in the quarterback position. Cam Newton was back at practice today. Mac Jones has looked good in the preseason. I don't know. What's your best bet as to who you'll see as the week 1 starting quarterback for the Patriots? I'm team Cam right now too. But here's the thing though. Do you really want, I'm just picturing week 1 or week 2 of the season, Cam Newton running to the sidelines, some linebacker lighting him up, collapsing his lung, and then Mac Jones coming off I don't want any of that.
Stop it. Stop it. Stop. You don't even put that out there. It'll be like Brian Cox Jr. will somehow appear.
Yeah, just completely recovered from an ACL injury.
And just somehow knock out Cam Newton. No.
Was that Brian Cox or was that Mo Lewis?
I don't remember.
Mo Lewis.
Yeah, it was, I think. Yeah. I don't know why. I always just think of Brian Cox. I don't know. I think
my favorite. Just for a second though. Did you happen to see what game was it where Mac Jones scrambled out of the pocket and ran for 3 yards and had the most awkward slide of all time? It was the funniest clip I've ever seen in my entire life. Mac Jones just trying to run 3 yards. It was so funny. He's so awkward. He's so awkward. He gives me Bledsoe vibes. Mac Jones gives me Bledsoe vibes. They both look so awkward when they have to do anything but stand in a pocket.
Yeah. Who is the most awkward running starting quarterback? I'd say Matt Ryan is pretty damn awkward as
Jared Goff. Jared Goff.
Yeah. I mean, Brady's obviously awkward. He doesn't ever run, but if someone gets out on the move, it used to be Peyton was super awkward, right? But Matt Ryan's up there. He's pretty damn awkward when he runs. He's I don't know.
Scott says Mac Jones is Kyle Orton. I think Kyle Orton was more athletic.
Yeah, and as sad as that is, I think you're right.
I'm trying to think of I'm trying to look at some quarterbacks around the league and think to myself who Joe Flacco running is awkward.
Yes,
I'm going through some of the teams. Ben Roethlisberger trying to run is kind of quite funny.
Yes,
Kirk Cousins, he's all right.
I mean, compared to those other guys,
yeah. I'm looking around, looking at some teams. Jameis running is kind of funny.
Jameis running's good. That's good. He has the whole arm thing going. He's got.
And then that's about it. Looking through, Joe Burrow's pretty athletic. Derek Carr can scramble. Jimmy G, someone said with Jimmy G was pretty awkward. Yeah, Jimmy G's pretty awkward.
Yeah.
But that's about it because the rest
Goff,
of them
like you said.
Yeah. So it should be interesting. All right.
So we've talked some Patriots here. We talked some Bills. What's your game prediction here for Bills Packers? What's your game prediction?
Game prediction is, well, so far the opposing teams have both scored 15 points in both preseason games against the Bills. So I'm going to go that the Packers get 15 points. I don't know. Bills maybe get like some awkward number like 29-15 Bills.
I think the Bills starters are going to play close to a half. I think the Bills players are going to start close to a half, and the fans are going to freak out the entire friggin' time. I think Josh Allen leads at least 2 to 3 scoring drives, whether they're field goals or touchdowns. And I think our starting defense, I think you might even see Mario Addison and Jerry Hughes out there a little bit. So that might be interesting. So I'm going to go Bills. I'm going to go Bills 31. Why not Packers 15? Packers 15. Okay. So 15. Emmanuel Sanders will be something cool to see too. So you've heard some multiple reports on Sanders, right? Like he's dealing. Roto World was talking about how he's dealing with his ankle injury. It's going to be an issue all year, so it's a good thing he has Gabriel Davis to platoon with. That sort of went into my take of the Bills keeping 7 wide receivers, but it'll just be interesting to see Josh Allen out there on Saturday with Emmanuel Sanders, possibly Cole Beasley, possibly Stephon Diggs. Who knows? Maybe Josh Allen is out there with. Oh, McKenzie's hurt, so. Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what wide receivers he's
Hodgins, maybe Hodgins gets a chance.
Is Hodgins back in practice?
Yeah, I think so. I believe I read that Hodgins was back.
Yeah, so it's honestly going to be. Do you put Stephon Diggs out there after the knee injury he's been dealing with? No, Emmanuel Sanders got that ankle thing. Obviously, Cole Beasley's dealing with quarantine, but I think he'll be back, but he'll have missed practice. McKenzie's in the sling, so
I'm not putting Diggs there.
Now that I think about it, that is. I mean, the guy tore his Stephon Diggs, I think, did the Bills a big favor. He said that he tore his oblique last year in pregame warmups for the Dolphins game. I don't buy it. I think he tore that oblique on that one catch he made where he got awkwardly tackled in the middle of that football game. And he was still able to play through it and still had some quality games up until that Chiefs game. But maybe it's Josh Allen, Jacob Hollister, Tanner Gentry, and Rico Gafford out there all at the same time.
No, it's Hodgins, Kumaro, Davis, like that. That's gonna be
What if we see the all Wyoming package? What if we see the Wyoming package? Come on, the Wyoming package. We see Josh Allen. So it'd be Josh Allen at quarterback, Jacob Hollister, Rico Gafford, and Tanner Gentry. All we're missing is that 5th guy. So obviously the 5th guy can't be. Maybe on Friday we find some running back for Brian Hill available. Is Brian Hill available? Is he on a team right now? Find a Wyoming running back to come in and play. Just one snap. Oh, Dawn. No, I don't care if they're the Wyoming Cowboys. You can't be. No. We're not allowed to. No, you can't ever put that after the Bills. No. Too much Dallas in there. Can't do it.
Speaking of Cowboys, you're about to go enjoy yourself a steak, aren't you?
Yes, I am. All right, so. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to cut it a little short here tonight because I do need to go out and celebrate that birthday dinner. But hope you guys enjoyed the show. Went off the rails on quite a few occasions tonight, but I think we had some fun. And we will be back. Let's have this conversation on air instead of privately. Let's just have it on air in front of the people. You've reached out to Jeff and Carlton? Have they gotten back to you?
Yeah, they're a no-go.
All right. So our next step is asking Rico if he wants to switch with us. So you might be seeing Rico on Monday because our next one, we'll both be flying on Monday. So maybe we'll get Rico and Z-Bot to switch places with us. So we'll be back either in some way, shape, or form at the latest next Thursday to break down the final 53 man, to give our final 53 man predictions, to give our what's the word I'm looking for? Season predictions, all that good stuff. So ladies and gentlemen, until next time, go Bills.
Go Bills.